Thank you. Mr. Attorney General, there's no blinking at the fact that for the first time in American history, we do have a presidential administration that's working to put its opponent in jail. I mean, that's a fact. And that, an opponent who's a former president of the United States. Now, as I understand the facts, Jack Smith was the principal player in the IRS targeting of the Tea Party. He was a well-established record of prosecutorial abuse. And yet you appointed him to prosecute the former president of the United States, who happens to be running against your boss. Now, this is entirely your work, including approving an unprecedented search of a former president's home. And though you've just maintained that the local prosecutors are independent, it's a fact that in the Manhattan case, the third-ranking official in your department left it to join the local prosecutor's office to spearhead the New York prosecution. The Atlanta prosecutor strategized for hours with the White House counsel in advance of filing that case. And you've just refused Mr. Gates' request to reveal what communications your department and its employees have had with those local offices. So what are we to make of all of this?
Well, I have to disagree with the characterizations that you've made. We're happy to take into account the requests if you make them to us. That's the normal process, and we will respond to all.
Which characterization do you question?
Well, I disagree with your characterization that this person was sent by my office.
I didn't say he was sent, but it is rather odd that the third-ranking official in your office leaves it to go to a local prosecutor's office to prosecute this case.
Justice Department had nothing to do with that person going. He was the principal deputy to the third-ranking person in the department.
Like Caesar's wife, it's important that your department be above reproach, and clearly it's not. Special Counsel Herr concluded that although there was evidence President Biden had willfully retained and disclosed classified materials when he was a private citizen, his words, criminal charges were not warranted because, among other things, President Biden is, quote, sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Do you agree with that decision?
I've said before, and I'll say again, I'm not going to comment. I didn't comment on Mr. Durham's special counsel report. I'm not going to comment on Mr. Herr's. Mr. Herr testified for 5 hours before this committee.
This is a Department of Justice matter. You're the Attorney General, and there's no prosecution involved with this at this point. So
of course it matters. Mr. Herr explained the rationale for his decision in that case, and he explained the differences between that case and the case involving the former president.
Well, I do want to thank you for your testimony expressing concern for terrorist attacks. We've had 5 million illegal immigrants deliberately released into our country with very limited vetting. And while the Border Patrol's been overwhelmed, another 2 million known gotaways have entered as well. Now, last year, your FBI director told this committee that he believes this constitutes a massive security threat. Again, his words. Do you agree with that assessment?
I'm never going to be disagreeing with the FBI director, but my recollection, he said that there is a national security threat of people from known terrorist organizations crossing the border, and the FBI will do everything it can to follow those people if they manage to make it across the border and to ensure that the country is protected.
We could go into that in great detail, but my greatest fear is that we could face a coordinated terrorist attack from elements among the millions who've entered this country illegally over the last 3 years. Is this fear justified?
I am worried about the possibility of a terrorist attack in the country after October 7th. The threat level for us has gone up enormously. Every morning we worry about this question. We try to track anyone who might be trying to hurt the country. Of course, this is a priority, a major priority for the Justice Department.
Because of this administration's policies, you now have millions and millions who've been allowed into this country or who have evaded the Border Patrol while they've been overwhelmed admitting these millions in. And I worry about the stage is set for something very bad happening in the very near future because of your administration's policies. You know, it's reported the president intends to use Section 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act to turn back illegal entries once they reach 2,500 a day. That's nearly 1 million a year. So that's not closing the barn door. That's keeping it propped open indefinitely. But it is a lower number than your administration's tolerated so far. Yet, for the last 3.5 years, the president's maintained that he has no such authority. So what's changed other than we're 5 months before the election? He's behind the polls.
I'm going to have to refer you to the Department of Homeland Security, which is responsible for the border issues. I would say that the best way to protect the border was to pass the bipartisan legislation that was proposed.
You're responsible. Well, the bipartisan legislation would have forbidden future presidents from using that very authority
Gentleman's
until
time.
illegal entries reach 4,000 a day. So don't be disingenuous, Mr. Attorney
Gentleman's time has
General.
expired. They've called votes on the floor. I think we'll try